Guess what? It's that time. Helldivers 2 weapon tier list. Now, I've wanted to do a tier list for a while. I thought of the different ways to do this and what would be easier. I've played with all the guns in the game extensively. I am 46 now. I've unlocked everything from the Plaz Scorcher to the Jar Dominator all the way back up to the SMG 37. I've got everything. I'm using them all. I'm going to rank the best to the worst weapons today as quickly as I can. Uh, and then, yeah. I'm also going to save and link this. And I want you guys to tell me whether you agree or disagree with my ratings and think these guns should be in other places. Granted, I will say these are the best meta weapons, in my opinion. If you like a gun and you want to make it work, you can make it work. So don't watch this video and think that you can only use the A and S tier guns. No, you can use whatever gun you want. You can make them work. All the guns are viable. Some are just less viable than others. We're going to start off with the sidearms because there's only 3 in the game and I wish there was a lot more. I love sidearms. I love pistols. I love all that. So let's start with them. I'm going to place the weapons that we're talking about in B category until I've decided where they go, whether they stay in B or they go somewhere else. And to let you know what my thinking is or my reasoning for these, S tier means that this weapon is near perfect. It has maybe 1 or 2 minor flaws to it, but other than that, it's a fantastic weapon. A tier means it's good in a lot of scenarios, but has a few flaws, maybe a major one. B tier means that it's a viable weapon, but with a couple of big flaws, okay? C tier means that it's still viable, but it has a lot of flaws. It has some pretty big deficiencies to it. D tier means that it's mostly deficiencies. There's not too many good things about this gun. It has maybe 1 or 2 upsides to it. And then F tier means that there is everything wrong with this gun and next to nothing right. Maybe 1 thing correct with this gun. But F tier is trash, garbage, abysmal, dog shit. Don't use it, okay? Alright, let's start with our sidearms. We're going to start with the single shot, 15 round Peacemaker. This is a pretty bog standard sidearm. I'm gonna leave it in B. I'm gonna leave it in B because this quickly gets replaced by the Redeemer, which I'm gonna put in A. The Redeemer is literally a 30 round capacity Peacemaker. I wish there was more of a difference between these two. I wish the Peacemaker was like a higher caliber and did a little bit more damage and maybe had a little bit more recoil. But that's not the case. The Redeemer is just better in literally every single way. So use the Redeemer. I mean, look, if the Redeemer didn't exist, the Peacemaker would be a B weapon, which is why I leave it in B. But it's not. The Redeemer exists, so, you know, in my opinion, this weapon is useless. It doesn't even go on the board. It's pointless. The Redeemer is better, but for the sake of the video, we're going to leave it in B. And so Peacemaker is B, Redeemer's A. Senator. This is the 6 round revolver with decent armor pin. But you're going to be reloading for days with this gun. It's 6 shots, then you're reloading, and then you're reloading, and then you're reloading. Because of the 6 shots, you're constantly reloading with this gun, so it's going to go in C. Let's talk about the Liberators. We're going to get the Liberator, Penetrator, Concussive, and the Normal. Let's start with the Normal. I love this gun. You can use it well beyond when you first get it. This weapon will carry you to Endgame, and you can use it in Endgame if you want. It's fantastic. A lot of upsides, not a lot of downsides to it. It's great. The Liberator, Penetrator. There are downsides. More recoil, less ammo magazine. I think it has a slower fire rate. It's okay. The armor penetration trade-off is not worth less magazine. So it's actually going to stay at B. And then the Liberator Explosive, which was actually renamed to Liberator Concussive. By the way, this is after the weapons patch where they nerfed the Breaker, and we're going to talk about that when we get to it. So this is post-patch. This is made on the Tuesday before we receive the first Warbond. So this is March 12th. So this is 2 days before we receive the first new Warbond, okay? So Liberator Concussive. The concussive trade-off is not worth the smaller magazine size and the reduced damage that this has in comparison to the fire rate for the regular Liberator. It kind of falls in line with the same thing as the Liberator Penetrator. It doesn't have the armor punch though, and the concussive, the pushback is really, really hard to use, especially compared to some other weapons that have great pushback that we'll get to. The Liberator Concussive is a C tier. It has some good points, but it's mostly weak points. It's very, very, very middle of the road. Not a huge fan. Okay. Let's talk about your SMGs. There's only two. There's the Knight, and then there's the SMG 37. The Knight is what you get for getting the Super Citizen Edition, the $60 version. I have it. I hate it. The Knight's not a very good gun. It's got way too much recoil. It's just not, I don't, the damage isn't there. Here's the thing. The SMG 37 is an A tier. The SMG 37 has 20 points more damage. It has 5 rounds less in the magazine. It has half the fire rate, and it has higher armor penetration. More controllable, more usable, more accurate. The Knight needs maybe about 300 rounds less of fire rate. It needs slightly less recoil, and it needs slightly more damage. And then it might be usable, but the Knight is such a bad niche weapon. It is basically only good against targets that are 5 feet away from you in fully automatic. That's it. That's its niche. That's it. And if you want to use it like that, great, but otherwise it's terrible. All right. Let's talk about them because everybody's going to want to know the breakers, the shotguns, the spray and pray, the incendiary, and the good old classic OG breaker. Which is which, where's where? Well, the breaker spray and pray got buffed. The breaker spray and pray used to be down here. Since it's buff, it's actually up here in C. It's not totally useless anymore, but it's not great. It could use some more damage or some more armor pen. One or the other, not both. It is only shooting birdshot though, so I understand the reason for not giving it more armor pen. So more damage then, but the magazine's fine, the accuracy, the recoil, that's fine. Breaker incendiary. It's a D tier. I like the concept of the gun, but it takes away the damage and replaces it with fire damage, which is not really working. As far as I can tell, it's not very consistent. It's not very good. So the breaker incendiary goes down there. It's just not great. And then the good old SG 35, 25 breaker, whatever it's called, the OG breaker. Got a nerf, has more recoil, and it has 3 less rounds in the magazine for 13 rounds. They didn't touch its armor penetration. They didn't touch its damage. You won't notice the recoil change. And the smaller magazine just means you have to be more diligent with where you place your shots. That's it. So the breaker, the OG breaker, is still top tier. It's still an S tier weapon. It's still one of the best guns in the game, periods, hand down. The 13 rounds just means you have to be careful about your shot placement, and that's it. And if you can't be careful about your shot placement, what you play in a third-person shooter for? All right. Let's get to the Diligence, the Marksman rifles. I have a problem with these guns because I like them. I like Marksman rifles. I like big, long-barreled guns with high-caliber rounds that bam, bam, bam. I like those. I don't like the Diligences. Either one of them. The sniper, the counter sniper, or the regular one. Here's why. They don't have enough punch to keep enemies at range away at range. They don't have enough punch to kill things fast enough to keep things from getting up on you quickly. And they are terrible close up. Now, I understand them being terrible close up when the enemy's in your face. They're marksman rifles. They're not made for close-up combat, so they're slow and clunky, and they have a bad ADS, and you can't barrel stuff in it. Just bang, bang. They're just bad up close, right? But they're not great at a distance either, and that's the problem. They're mediocre at a distance. The Diligence and the Diligence Counter Sniper will be outclassed by the Liberator Penetrator if you put the Liberator Penetrator on single fire and you just tap away at enemies. So for that reason, the Diligence is a C, and the Diligence Counter Sniper is a D. The Diligence Counter Sniper is slightly worse because it only gains 16 points of damage per shot, very little armor pen. It gains very little armor pen over just the regular Diligence, and it loses 5 rounds in the magazine, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing is the 5 rounds in the magazine. It's not worth the slight damage bump and the slight armor pen bump. You don't notice either one of those. So yeah, the Diligence Counter Sniper goes down to a D, and the Diligence is a C. The Punisher shotguns. The regular Punisher, and then the Slugger variant. The Punisher, the regular one, got a buff. It got a big old buff. More damage per pellet. I think it's like 45 now or something like that. It also has more pushback. A lot more pushback. Right now, this weapon is in S tier. I think this will be nerfed. I think they will reduce the total pushback. The pushback right now keeps enemies off of you like crazy, especially the big ones. The only bad thing about this Punisher is that it is not great at dealing with small enemies that rush you because it's pump action. Boom, boom, boom. When you have 8 or 9 guys rushing you, you're better switching to a Redeemer instead of sticking with your Punisher. That's why the Punisher is not a perfect weapon, like the Breaker. You have to be more diligent with your shots with the Breaker now. But I suspect that the Punisher will be nerfed, and it will probably go down to an A tier when it does get nerfed. But for right now, because of the pushback, that's an S tier weapon. It's fantastic, guys. The Slugger, same thing, except it doesn't have a spray, and it doesn't have as much pushback. So it's an A tier, but it's great. It's a fantastic gun. It's really, really good. It has great armor pen, can kill shrimps, can kill scout walkers. It's fantastic. Love it. Love the Punisher. Or love the Slugger. Love the Punisher and the Slugger. Love them both. All right. The last 3 big weapons. These are pretty much the last 3 weapons. Pretty much everybody unlocks. The Plaz Scorcher, the Scythe, and the Jar Dominator. Okay? What do I think about these 3? Where do they go? Well, here's my problem. The Jar Dominator is a good weapon, but it's only good against bugs. The Jar Dominator, in my opinion, is useless against automatons. It does not have the armor pin. It has too much recoil. It does not have the magazine capacity. It does not have the damage. It sucks against automatons. It does okay against bugs. So the Jar Dominator is a C. And it's the only explosive weapon, truly explosive weapon that we have. Everything else is classed as a ballistic or an energy weapon, and these 2 are energy. Speaking of energy weapons, the Scythe. This is a big old laser. You just hold it and it shoots a laser. Pretty cool, right? Except when you feel its performance. Small magazines, lack of range, lack of damage. It's an F. This is an F. This weapon's useless. This is totally useless. I hate this weapon. I can't stand it. It is pathetic. It is terrible. It is the worst weapon in the game, hands down. It is the F. It is our solo F. The only F in the game, because the Plaz Scorcher is an S tier. Absolutely fantastic damage, fantastic armor penetration. Its plasma scorching abilities give it great armor penetration. It kills scout walkers quickly when you shoot them in the legs. It takes out armored bugs, no problem. Anything small to medium, it will take out, no problem. Just like the Breaker, just like the Punisher. The problem with the Plas Scorcher, and the only problem, just like the Breaker, is its magazine size. And remember, our S tiers, they only have one thing wrong with them. The Punisher is bad at dealing with small guys up close. The Plas Scorcher and the Breaker both have bad magazine sizes. The magazine size is too small. And that's it. Those are the only problems with those guns. That's why they are S tier. Everything else has multiple problems. With the Slugger, I would say, because it's not pellet based, it's a lot tighter. It makes up for it with that armor pin, but it doesn't have the pushback. It doesn't have the spread. It's a lot harder to deal with enemies up close. You can shoot enemies at a distance, but it also lacks in damage compared to the Punisher when you get a full-on hit. And then, the Liberator Penetrator, it's okay. It's outclassed by the Liberator and the SMG. It does better than the Concussive and all that, and on and on and on and on. That's our tier list. So our S tiers are Breaker, our Punisher, and our Plas Scorcher. Our Plas 1 Scorcher. Our A tier is the Redeemer, the Liberator, the SMG 37, and the Slugger. The B tier is the Peacemaker and the Liberator Penetrator. Our C tier is the Redeemer, the Liberator Concussive, the Breaker Spray and Pray, the Diligence Marksman Rifle, and the Jar Dominator. Your D tier is your Knight MP98 Submachine Gun, the Breaker Incendiary, and the Diligence Counter Sniper. And the worst gun in the game by a country fucking mile is your Las Scythe. God, that gun needs some love and some help. This will be in the description for you to make your own tier list if you want to. Do you agree or disagree with me? Is this where you think everything should go? That's up for you to decide. This is my opinion on my tier list. I think these are the weapons in the correct order that they should be, and this is the order I think they should be nerfed or buffed in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please use this with caution. Don't be like, this is the meta list that everyone must use. Please don't do that. Please don't. I'm Guns. Hope you guys enjoyed this Helldivers content. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and come watch me live over at twitch.tv/GUNZGAMES if you would like to watch more Helldivers Helldive content live. I will see you later. GG, everybody.